In this class, we are going to learn Codeigniter. Codeigniter is a PHP framework for developing web applications much faster. Codeigniter is very easy to install and there is not much configuration needed after installation, and it is very lightweight. Only 2 MB is there with its source code, entire source code. And the websites developed with the Codeigniter is more secure also. And Codeigniter is based on MVC architecture. MVC means Model View Controller. Here M means model. We will see what are the terms in which MVC based on. Model is M means model. Model means which acts as a data manipulation or management section in which the entire data source or the websites will get the entire data source from model. Like model will take or manipulate data from the database or any data sources it can be. So the model's main purpose is to manipulate data sources. Normally, a model will be a class which contains some functions which works as for taking or updating or deleting or any type of data manipulations. So that section is of M. Then the next section is V. V means view. View, as its name suggests, view is a presentation layer which users view, which is something which user view. Like in the user views in a browser, like HTML, it contains HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery or such front-end technologies. The next one is controller. The main section of MVC architecture is controller. Controller is the main brain of everything. Like the controller will decide the data, which data to catch from the model, or which is to display into the view, or which is to take from the which data is to take from the view and update the model or so. So the controller controls the complete process. So controller is acts as a processing section in between view and model, and this is the entire architecture of MVC. We'll see from this figure, like as it is an MVC architecture, we need something to trigger this architecture. Normally, the triggering thing we say URL like this, which we are typing on the top of a page, URL. Normally a URL will be like this: domain name / controller name / function name or method name. And this URL is the request which a user giving into our MVC architecture system. We will see this when we are doing some projects in using Codeigniter. Here domain name / controller name. This is the controller name. This controller name will catch or will go to the corresponding controller. There can be so many controllers in a project. So this controller name will take that appropriate controller, and after that, after going into that controller, it will take the corresponding function name inside that controller class. A controller class will have a lot of functions for doing the functionality of taking data from model, or putting data into the model, or displaying some view into the in front of the user or so. So the main starting area is the acceptance of URL with a controller name, so that will be a request. So when a user types, this is a user type a request, the request will directly go to the corresponding controller, and that controller will call a view or model depending on the requirement inside the controller function. The requirement may be taking some data from the model and processing that and displaying that to the view for sending the response to the user, or maybe taking some data from view and updating the model, and then sending notifying the user or in the view about the updation completed successfully, and maybe the notifying that to the user about that updation or so. So this is the complete MVC architecture, and we will see how this works. First of all, as I told earlier, we will have this URL. We definitely need a URL like this for making the controller working. So we will first of all we will install the Codeigniter using our basic installation things. We'll go to the Codeigniter download site. Here we can see some Codeigniter 4 and Codeigniter 3. Now we will see first Codeigniter 3. Then I will take a class on Codeigniter 4 also. Downloaded Codeigniter, and we can just copy it into C folder, SAMP htdocs. Just copied that into htdocs, and I am extracting it. Just do like this. Simply take this section, and we can just change its name to Codeigniter. Rename it to Codeigniter. Just change it into Codeigniter, and we can simply call it in our, the SAM should be running. So we can simply call the localhost Codeigniter as we change its name to Codeigniter. SAMP is running already. So we got the installation completed. Now we got a page like this. This is a view page which we are seeing, and this is the controller URL which we are calling the controller. Here let us see how it calls the controller using this front page. Here the meaning of this, as Codeigniter says, like it is going to index.php welcome controller. I'll show how this works. We will take that code section and we will show that. This is the URL which we are giving. We can simply give this also because of some adjustments inside the Codeigniter. Basically the page will be like this. Welcome. Here it is. I will explain this URL as we saw. This is the domain name, and this is the controller name. and there is no function name given, we can simply take it as index also. This will take into the same page itself, because if there is any index function, I'll show that in our code. Like this is our URL, and I will take that complete code of Codeigniter installation. Here we can see there are 3 main folders and some extra files. The application folder, system folder, and a user guide. System folder is completely with the core files and drivers and everything, database drivers, core files, everything which is needed for running this our application smoothly. And core file, which we should not do anything here, because this is the exact core functionalities are doing here. So this is the basic core file. We should not do anything inside this folder. And there are some libraries and helpers available for working for making our application much more easier. We can use these helpers and libraries. And the other one is user guide. Codeigniter provided a very good user guide for us. We will see that for documentation and use tutorials. We can refer this user guide. Then the main section is application section, in which we are doing our application. We can see that from this front page, we can see there is a view and a controller. The Codeigniter gave us the exact path also, like this. As I said here, this is a controller name is welcome and function name is index. I will show that. This index.php is another thing. I will tell what is the use of this index.php. First of all, let us see, there is a view called welcome message and there is a controller called welcome.php. Here in our application, this is the application section in which we are doing our projects. The controller section, as in the front page says, the controllers folder contains a welcome controller like this. This is the main controller which calls when we are giving a URL like this. It will automatically take that welcome controller. The controller name should be like this. Its first letter should be capital. This is a standard way. And it is extending CI controller. CI controller is the basic controller code of Codeigniter basic class. In every controller, we should extend this when we are creating a controller. Another thing is that it is calling a view using this command, this load view welcome message. This is the view name or the display page, view page, which we are getting, this one. So the functionality of this thing is that this URL is that it is calling a controller with the name welcome or welcome.php, and it is executing a function inside that controller called index. One important thing in PHP, like if we are not giving any index or index.php or index function anywhere, it will automatically take that index function. As we saw earlier in all the sections, like if you have an index.php file, that folder will automatically work that index.php file first. Same way, if there is a function inside a class with index its name, that function will automatically take. If we have some other functions also, like public function test also, then this will take if we call that function name. Like if I am telling like echo test function or like this will call. Here in this index function, we are calling a view using this command. This is a command for calling a view. The view is here. This is a controllers folder in which controller we are writing all the controllers. And we will have a views folder also inside the application folder, which we will write our views. Now the view is in welcome message.php. So this load view message will call this welcome message.php. Normally we won't write .php. So here the view is this, in which we are it is doing some border or some header, footer, T body, extra H1, some styles, and there is a div body, and all these things are writing here. We can see welcome page we are looking is being generated dynamically by Codeigniter, this one, and all these all these things are giving like this with some designs, CSS designs, same inside in this code, in this page itself, like inline, not inline, internal style sheet. So we got this page, we call this page in view. So we can see that we have seen an MVC architecture with the controller calling and calling a view. Here we are not using a model. We have to use a model also in next class. And this is the basic MVC architecture, URL calling and a controller with a view. And one more important thing is like this index.php. This index.php is, as I said earlier, index.php is a file is which the starting section of code is working. So we can take this index.php as a start section. Like in Codeigniter, what it is doing is, without this index.php, the Codeigniter will not work. So definitely we need this index.php anywhere after domain. But this URL may look not good for a normal user. This one, he may not be able to write a URL like this, or this is not a search engine friendly URL. So we have to hide this index.php using some extra things like .htaccess in or some things in httpd.conf file. It is better to do in .htaccess file. I will put a class on .htaccess also, and we can do the redirection of this URL into a good friendly URL by cutting this or hiding this index.php. But this index.php is definitely needed here for working Codeigniter, but we can simply hide this index.php. I will put a class on that for hiding index.php. I will show the index.php file also. This is a boot file, so we should start with this file. In Codeigniter should always start with this file. This is the boot file. It will call everything inside from this file. Complete application is calling from this file. So we can simply just hide this, or we can simply just rewrite the URL. For that we need a .htaccess redirection. And some more extra things here is that in the top of each and every file there is a defined base path. This is for security. Like you should not access all these files like controller file or view file or everything. You should not access these files other than index.php. That is the main other important thing. The index.php should be there in every URL. Other than typing this type of URLs, it should not access this welcome.php controller file or view file or any model file directly. So for that, in every page it should be like, there should be a line command like this, there should be a line of code like this. If there is no base path defined, then we should execute that URL execution, or you should stop that execution. So this is all about installation and directory structure of Codeigniter plus MVC architecture. We will do some projects in next class.